I, 34 male, and Lola, 31 female, have been married to each other for just a little over 5 years. We were introduced to one another through relatives, which isn't a common thing where I'm from. It's different from an arranged marriage because we still had a choice in the whole matter, and we get to figure out whether we liked each other from the start. Thankfully, we both felt pretty strongly about each other, and we decided to date. We eventually got married just under a year later, and since then, I thought that everything was going well. As a man, I like to take care of the people around me who I really care about, so that includes my parents, my siblings, and especially my partner. I do so much to make her happy, and she always seemed appreciative of it. However, it is clear that I haven't been able to do enough because the woman has still made the choice to go ahead and cheat on me, and that's something that I know that I really did not deserve. It's been making me wonder whether I've done something wrong. It makes me wonder whether there's some aspect of being a husband where I have been insufficient. I found out that she was cheating through a friend. To hear it from someone else somehow felt like it made the entire situation worse. Apparently, the friend has been in the right place at the right time, and if he hadn't been there, I guess I would have still been in the dark about what she was up to. He had seen Lola and another man in public, just outside of her work. He held her hand as she walked back to her car. They sat inside the car together for a bit, and he said that he saw them kiss for almost a full minute before the man got out of the car and she drove away. I asked if he was mistaken, but he said that he was certain that they were kissing. He wasn't super close, but he could make out that much through the windshield. He said it was so surprising, and his first instinct hadn't been to take pictures or record a video. If not for the fact that the person telling me all of this was a very close friend, I would have really doubted it. I just asked him how sure he was that it was her, but he said there was no doubt. He confirmed the car, and he was right. He told me what she was wearing, and when she came home that day, it was exactly as he described it to me. It was clear that it was her, and he had seen. And the worst part, for me, was that there was no excuse I could give her. There was no sensible reason for her to have been holding another man's hand, and there was no excuse for her to have made out in the car with him for nearly a minute. I knew that she was cheating, and she had been likely cheating with this person for quite some time, whoever they were. The description that my friend gave did not ring any bells for me. The only thing that I wanted to do was to have evidence of her cheating for myself. I wanted to see it with my own eyes. I didn't doubt my friend, but I just knew that I had to see it myself so that I could feel the right emotions. Hearing it from someone else didn't make me as angry as I knew that I wanted to be. I couldn't confirm that she saw that person at work every day. Trying to stalk her work could end up being a really big waste of time. I also didn't want to spend the money that would be required to have a PI watch her for a week. It just seemed like money that could be better spent. I know it's not elegant, but I chose to just go through her phone because it was accessible. It could be done almost right away, and I'd be able to easily document whatever it was that I found there. The only thing I didn't like was that the evidence could be there, but there was a potential that I might not look in the place that I was meant to. However, I told myself I would take that chance and figure it out later if it came up negative. When she came home that day and I saw the same clothes that my friend had described, I felt repulsed by her. The things that she would do normally, which would make me happy, like hugging me and talking about how much she missed me, only pissed me off. I tried not to show it because I hadn't confirmed anything, and she didn't seem to notice that I was in a very different mood. That day, when she went into the shower and left her phone in the bedroom, I grabbed it right away. I didn't have any anxiety because we didn't have that kind of marriage where she'd instantly be suspicious if I was using her phone. So I took my time going through her call logs, her messages, and her photos, trying to see if I could figure out who she was cheating on me with. I knew that the moment I stopped here in the shower, I would have to abort the mission. It took me some time, but I finally found that the guy's name was Luke. Apparently, they had met online through some route and had moved some things to regular messages because of convenience. They sent a lot of pictures to each other and flirted too. There was nothing dirty in there, but it didn't need to be dirty for me to know that she was a whore who was cheating on me. I made sure to screenshot everything, including his picture. When she came out of the bathroom, she knew for a fact that I was in a bad mood, but I refused to tell her anything about why I was feeling the way I did. It wasn't time for me to explode on her yet. It was a complete hunch, but I sent the picture to my friend to ask him if he was the guy that he had seen Lola with, and imagine my surprise when he said it wasn't. I asked him if he was sure almost 10 times, and he told me that he was. He said that the guy looked nothing like that, so it must have been a completely different person. My friend described the person as well as he could, but it was clearly a different person. It's bad enough to find out your wife is having an affair on you, but to realize that she's basically cheating on you with 2 different people is a horrible feeling. It's a really crappy feeling, I'll tell you. As soon as she fell asleep that night, I went straight back into her phone to try to figure out who the other person was. I started with coworkers since my friend had seen her outside her workplace. I knew a bunch of her coworkers' names, so I checked all of them. That was the right move for me to make because under her conversation with Timothy, a coworker I had met a few times, things were mostly formal, but there were a few points where it slipped. It was typically him being naughty and commenting on her body in ways that she should have shot down. And when I thought of the description that my friend had given, it made sense once I realized that she had mentioned recently that Timothy had cut his hair, which used to be really long. It is so hard for me to describe the way I was feeling right now, knowing that the person that I am in love with can't say the same about me. In fact, her love of me is so non-existent that she's cheated on me with at least 2 people. Who knows how many more of them I wasn't fortunate enough to learn about. I tried to check her phone as much as I could, but I really couldn't see evidence of anyone else but those 2. I made sure to document all of the cheating evidence that I had found on her phone. I left the bedroom and went to sleep on the couch. When she met me there in the morning, she was really concerned and kept asking what she had done. But I refused to speak to her, and I could see that it was driving her crazy. I've left for work, and I've been writing this with my free time throughout the day because I really can't focus on work as much as I should. I'm going to be meeting with a divorce attorney at the end of my workday, and honestly, I'm actually looking forward to it. I need to know what my future will potentially look like without her. I can't keep suffering with her. What you don't know can't hurt you, but I'm glad I know. I don't mind the pain if it means I don't have to keep living with someone who clearly doesn't love me. The pain is only temporary, and I'll move on eventually. Don't start questioning whether you weren't enough. You did everything right. You cared, you provided, you trusted. The problem isn't that you fell short. It's that she didn't value what she had. People like that don't cheat because something's missing. They cheat because they're missing something inside themselves. Update 1. So I have a pretty massive update to tell. The divorce process has moved along a little, but before we get into that, I'd love to talk about some other things first. My wife realized that something was wrong in the days that followed, and while I didn't keep entirely silent, I didn't try to please her or act normal. I was just waiting for the divorce papers to be ready so that I could serve her. There was no point in my confronting her before that point. She went through all sorts of emotions. She cried, she got angry, she went silent too. But in the end, she came back to trying to beg me to let her know what was up with me. She's not stupid, so she assumed it was something that she must have done. And one thing that I found very amusing was the time that she asked, "Did you go through my phone or something?" I didn't react to it, but for a supposedly faithful wife to think that you might be pissed off because you went through her phone says a lot about the kind of crap that she might keep up in that phone. Anyway, I left her to beat herself up about it, even though I was very tempted to confront her because I had so much rage that I had built up over all that time. I had to keep things to myself. When the divorce papers were ready, I went to go and see my attorney, and we had a chat. He told me all about the process, like how I have to have an uninvolved party deliver the papers, how she had 30 days to sign the papers, and all that stuff that us people who haven't had to deal with divorces don't know about. During the conversation, he started to talk about how some spouses can get very, very vindictive during divorces, even when they were in the wrong. He told me about how one woman had cheated on her husband, he divorced her, and then she decided to get a billboard with his full name and a PG description of his favorite kink. Morally, the man didn't deserve it, but he said that women could be pretty mean when pushed to the wall. It was like I had an epiphany at that moment. I decided that I was going to do the exact same thing to Lola. That was how she was going to find out that I knew. I'd make sure that she saw it on her way to work, and I'd make sure that she was served right as she was entering work. She'd have to stew the whole day, knowing that I knew and that the consequences were waiting for her at home, and I'd hope that all of her coworkers would see it too. I asked my lawyer about the legal aspects of it, and he said that making it identifiable was the problem. His client in the story he had told hadn't chosen to sue her, but he could have had a case if he could have proved it to be defamation. I told him that I planned to do the same, and I asked him if I would have an issue if I just used first names. He said there would be little problem with that, but my last hurdle would be if the billboard company agreed. I drove from our house to my wife's workplace, and I found a digital billboard in a very good spot. It was extremely close to her actual office, and it was possible that they could even read it from the office itself. I called the number on the billboard and reached out to them. I was able to get them to agree to a rental for just a week, though it cost me just a little over $1,000. They explained that the ad would not be showing by itself. It would be part of a cycle of different ads, which made sense. I just hoped that at the time she passed it, she would see it. Once that was set, and I knew the day it would premiere, I paid a process server to get it to her workplace exactly when she meant to be walking in. He knew her car, what she looked like, and what she was wearing, and I told him when she left home. I didn't know if she had seen the ad, but I do know when she had been served. I got one phone call from her and then nothing after that. However, by 1 p.m., I had like 7 phone calls that I didn't bother picking up. Just so you know, the message on the billboard was, "Lola, I know you cheated on me," and then in slightly smaller font under it, in parentheses, was, "Thanks, Timothy." Nothing could be used to identify the people involved, but those who worked with them would almost certainly know. Lola isn't her real name, but her real name isn't quite common, so her coworkers would know that it had to be her. When I got those several calls in the afternoon, I assumed it was either because she was on her break or reacting about the divorce papers, or because she was on her break and had finally seen the billboard. Either way, I let the phone ring. The real confrontation was going to happen when we were both at home. I got home first and she was there after me. The very first thing she did was chuck her bunch of keys straight at my face, and I was able to dodge out of the way. To say she was screaming at me would be an understatement. I've never seen Lola as angry as I saw her in that moment. She said that the divorce papers were enough of an explanation for why I had been acting the way that I was, and the next thing that she wanted to know was why I wanted a divorce. She said she realized what my reason was when someone called her attention to the billboard during their lunch break. She said that I was a disgusting, petty person for doing that. What I noticed was that she didn't make an attempt to deny that she had cheated on me with Timothy. I'm sure she was smart enough to know that whatever I had seen was the truth. I found that to be a convenient time to tell her that I knew about Luke, too. A good human being would use being confronted with a second inappropriate male partner as a reason to pipe down. But no, Lola made more noise. It became more about me invading her privacy and checking her phone. I had no right to do that, according to her. I told her that she needed to be ashamed of herself. She was a married woman who was still sleeping around. I asked her why she craved male validation that badly. I told her she had low self-esteem. That part hit her hard. She told me that she wanted them because they were better men than I was. She said I didn't please her in bed, so she got some real men to do it. She laughed and she said it. And it was clear she was just trying to get a rise out of me. So I laughed too. I told her that the real men she was talking about just used her to bust a nut. They wouldn't commit to her because they didn't care about her to that extent. I told her that she needed to pack her things and get out of my house. The whole thing turned to a really messy shouting match, and as much as I like to keep my emotions in check most of the time, finally having the chance to let your cheating wife know how you feel is something that gets heated fast. She got all up in my face and she kept jabbing her finger in my face. I wanted to slap her so badly, but the divorce was already going to be an uphill battle for me as a man. I also didn't need a domestic to open my criminal record for me. I settled for pushing her backwards. I went upstairs, grabbed her suitcases, and started throwing a bunch of her essential stuff inside. She kept throwing the stuff out as I was packing it. At the end of the day, I got too frustrated and I just packed my own things and left the house. I couldn't deal with it anymore. I realized I don't need the house. If I get it, great. If she gets it, then good luck to her in handling the mortgage. I just need this whole episode of my life to be over for good. I'm so tired. Update 2. Hello everyone. I know my last update was pretty long and chaotic, but this will be my final one since I am now officially divorced from my ex-wife, Lola. I'm so happy for that. The divorce was pretty rough. Her attorney was a mean SOB, so it wasn't a surprise that she wanted all of the things that she knew would hurt me the most. I knew I wasn't going to let her get away with some of the things that she was asking for. We had very different opinions, and as much as we tried to agree on things, it was clear that it wasn't going to work. So we went to court. The judge gave her the house, which pissed me off, but it wasn't the end of the world. I had already gotten used to not being in that house. Plus, I didn't mind getting half of its current market value. That'll be a nice little bit of money to find its way into my account. Of course, she got alimony despite the fact that she's a cheating witch, so a big thank you to the judicial system for that. She has a job and earns an income. I don't see why I need to supplement that. However, besides those, everything else went okay for me. I learned later on through her mom, who talks too much and likes me too much, that Lola had quit her job. Apparently, my Billboard stunt had made her work extremely uncomfortable for her. Everyone put 2 and 2 together, and even though the workplace didn't seem to care, she did. She eventually left the job because it ended up being such a nightmare for her. She never confronted me about it herself, probably because if she did, I would win. She was right about that, but thankfully, I found out anyway. That last piece makes the whole thing feel totally worth it to me. I was dealing with a cheating woman as a wife. I gave her what she deserved, and now I can move on with my life. That's good enough for me. It's the kind of thing that most people only fantasize about doing after being cheated on, but you actually went and pulled the trigger. I honestly don't blame you, and the fact that she didn't even deny cheating, that says everything. The only thing she cared about was deflecting and playing the victim. Classic cheater behavior. Yeah, the alimony part stings, but it's temporary. Her having to quit her job because she couldn't handle the fallout? That's all we need. Do you have a similar story? Share it with us in the comments. And thank you for joining us today on our space. Be sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on our next video. See you soon.